Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Decipher podcast. I'm Dennis Fisher. I'm so honored and thrilled today to have my former census teammate, Ariana Mirian. I did it here to talk to me about her new startup and everything that's going on with her. How are you? It's so great to see you.
Dennis, it's so good to be here, and it's so good to be talking to you. Things are great. I'm just excited to chit chat.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. You were one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. I think we just I don't know, have sort of like the same kind of mindset and like, I don't know. It was just a
Dennis,
lot of fun the short time we worked together.
same, honestly. When you were like, hey, I found a different opportunity. It's time to move on. I was like, no, Dennis. And it's really quite an honor to be able to find such good people to do good work with. And I'm glad our paths have crossed again here.
Me
I'm
too.
thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. And as we were talking before we started recording, you don't always find the good people that you get to work with. I feel very fortunate that I have for almost all of my career, and you're a lot younger than I am, but you still it when you find it, and
Yeah.
when you don't, it's super obvious. You're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it's
nope.
like, oh no, this thing that I really enjoy doing is now a slog. No, completely. It's
Yeah.
people are make or break work, people make or break your personal life. I mean, it's all about people, Dennis. What else is there to say? It's a big world out there also. So
It is. It's a big world out there. There's lots of people in it, and you're trying to help them. You're trying to keep them safe, which I think is you know, a noble thing, because a lot of the people in our, in the cybersecurity world, in the tech world, they have that as like a surface goal, but mostly it's how can I just pile up Scrooge McDuck size things of money in my warehouse.
yeah.
And money's great. We all need it, but yeah.
At the end of the day, behind all the computers, all the cell phones, all the social media handles, it's people. And you and I have talked about it quite a bit, but I've always been so motivated by like how can we use research to answer questions about people in service of better security outcomes.
Yeah.
It's like the best of both worlds for me. I'm like security and people. What more could you want?
I love that combination. Yeah. And I know for I know your background, but the people,
Yeah.
listening probably don't. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in security. I know you went to Michigan in computer science, in the beautiful Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
But what was your focus? Did you think you wanted to do security then? Like, was
Oh
that
my
your
God.
thing going in?
Great question. Yeah, so I've been working in security for a little over a decade now, which is like kind of crazy to think about. Time, what is that saying? It's like the days are slow, but the years are fast. I'm like, when did that
The
all
days are long, but the years are short. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
completely butchered it. Thank
No,
you.
it's okay.
Yeah, so I basically stumbled my way. I was like an undergrad doing computer science. This is when computer science wasn't like the hotness it is right now. And
Yeah.
I kind of stumbled my way into this security lab that was doing a lot of internet wide scanning. And it really piqued my interest. I was like, wow, security, it's just like this ever evolving field. You've got attackers, you've got defenders, you've got people in the middle. Like, this seems like it could be a fun thing. Like, genuine. I was just like, I don't know, this seems cool. And the more I dug into it, the more I was like, wow, there's all this data, but we don't really have good answers about like people and how to protect people. And or at least that's what it felt like at the time. This was again a long time ago. We've made progress, but
I think that's still true, though, for the most part, honestly.
now we have more data about people and more open questions, I think, actually. But yeah, this is a question of like, how can we use data to help, improve security outcomes for the end user is was very motivating to me. It was much less well formulated at the time. I was just like, people, data, this seems like it's interesting.
Yeah.
And long story short, that took me to UCSD where I did my PhD. So I was super fortunate to work with like some wicked smart people who are internet measurement experts. So like their research, their goal is like, how do we take data about the internet, about people, and try to make sense of it? So yeah, that my PhD was fantastic. I had a great time. And then very full circle afterwards, I ended up working at a security startup called Census, which does internet-wide scanning. It was like this great full circle moment. I went
Yep.
back, also fantastic people, that's where you and I met. And most recently, I've actually moved on from Census and have actually started a company with two old colleagues of mine called Beesafe, where we are trying to use data about the world to protect people from scams and specifically pig butchering scams. So that's kind of like a summary of my background. That was maybe too long. I get really
No,
excited about data and security, if you can't tell.
well, that's why you're here. No, that was not too long at all. The I love the part about you just kind of stumbling into the security lab at Michigan, which I think for people that don't know the backstory of Census, like that's where Census came from, is that
Yeah,
like internet wide scanning project at Michigan.
yeah.
That I think it was called ZMAP at the beginning, right?
Well,
For
yeah, it was like ZMAP was like the tool, and then we were
yeah,
using ZMAP to do a bunch of research, and then we were like, wow, this internet-wide scanning thing is actually really hard. What if we like pulled together all this data and just like made it accessible to people? Because you have to like get the boxes set up, you have to work with your network and like
yeah,
the IT admins. The IT admins are like, you want to do what? For you want to scan the internet every day, multiple times a day? Why would you do that? And we're like, no, no, no.
yes,
There's like good intentions there, we promise. But I've heard it's like we kept hearing this in the research world, and so then put together this like academic repository, which then evolved into Census.
yeah.
And so that's why it was really fun to come back full circle because I was like, I know this research area, I know how the internet works, but like seeing it evolve into its own company was just really satisfying to experience, and it was a good time.
Yeah, it was. It's funny that you say, I know how the internet works. Like, there probably aren't like 20 people on the planet that truly understand like how the internet works. Like, you know,
Internet works caveat, I'm like,
I understand. Yes, but
yeah.
you would be at the tippy top of the pyramid, like the people that do that kind of work. Most people are like, there's a bunch of computers that are connected and things move between them and they show up on my screen. I mean, that's kind of, and that's fine. That's all you mostly need to know.
Yeah.
But, you know, just in the like 6 months that I was at Census, you get under the covers there and you're like, oh my God, it's incredible how big this thing is. It's, first of all, it's not a thing, but it's like how big the networks are and the
The
fact that any of
entity,
this works.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that anything gets where it's supposed to go is incredible.
It
It's like 40 miracles strung together every 2 milliseconds.
I share that same feeling, Dennis. I mean, whenever something, and I know a lot, you and probably a lot of people listening to this are going to relate to this joke, but like whenever there's a big outage, it's like, oh, like big tech company just went down or had an outage. It's like, oh, is it DNS? It was
Right.
probably DNS. And then like 90% of the time it is. And I'm like, this
Yeah.
very fragile
Yep.
protocol is still the backbone of a lot of what we're doing. And that is just, it is what it is and keeps your day interesting.
Somehow it works. Yes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Be Safe, and I'm fascinated to hear the premise behind this. You mentioned that a couple of old colleagues sort of got in touch and were like, hey, we have this idea. We want to run with it. We think you should be involved. Like, where did the germ of this idea come from?
Yeah. So let me just take a quick step back. You received these texts that are like, hey, John, have you fixed the reservation? Or like, hey, Mary, are you still up for golf? And you're like, no, this is Dennis. I don't know who John or Mary is.
Right.
Um,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
Of
so
course.
so these sorts of texts are unfortunately the beginning of this type of cybercrime that is often referred to as pig butchering or conversational scams.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting shift where we still see a lot of deceptive tactics. People will send emails, they'll be like, "Hey, here's the DocuSign, sign this link," and you click on it and then accidentally give out your information. This is a little different where attackers are trying to converse with people on all sorts of messaging platforms. The messages look really innocuous, and they will build trust over time with potential victims for days, weeks, months. I mean,
Yeah.
truly, this is what we see in the data, which I'll get to the data in a little bit. And then at the end of this, they're like, hey, Ariana, we're good friends. You trust me, I trust you. And then they ask for some sort of financial exfiltration. And it comes in a lot of different forms, right? Sometimes it's like, hey, we're good friends. I've got this investment opportunity. Just give me X amount of money. Sometimes it's romance schemes. It's
Yeah.
like very well crafted romance schemes. And it is these long running trust based scams that are like devastating people. I mean, I think the most recent report, the FBI, and it has a bunch of data through the IC3, it's something
Right.
like $20 billion of reported losses, which is an insane number, right?
And
It's
that's
like,
just the reported number. So you can
it's
probably multiply that several times over.
right, right. And like I think the FTC has tried to do some of these multiplications. Of course, like we don't know the true number, but we're
Yeah.
like the estimations are in like, closer to hundreds of billions.
Yeah.
Because there's so much shame, right? When people realize or they don't realize, they don't report, they don't want to talk about it. And so the premise of, Beesafe was it started off as like a research project, right? It started off in like the confines of academia. And the idea was, could we create a long running system that engages with attackers naturally, you know, uh, with the goal of mapping that entire attacker life cycle from initial inbound, hey, are we still up for golf, all the way to, hey, send me money at this account, download this malicious app, go to this
Yeah.
weird domain. And with the idea being that in trying to map that entire life cycle, you get more information about the scheme, of course, but then you can go find people to partner with and shut down those pieces of attacker infrastructure before real victims pay out. And this is, where a lot of this human oriented mindset comes in, is like, okay, this is like a little bit of a tangent. I hear so much in this line of work that people are like, oh my God, but why would anyone fall for that? Victims are so dumb.
Oh,
And I'm like, no,
yeah.
hard stop. This is psychological manipulation at its best. And there are so many, not so many, but there's a number of people who are coming out to share their stories of how they got scammed. And it's like you see the data, but then you hear these anecdotes and you're like, yeah, that's a really convincing story. Oh, they talked to you for 5 months? Yeah,
Yeah.
of course you're gonna believe that that's someone who you like, that's someone who has your best interest in heart.
Right.
Um, and so the idea is like, we can try to train people, we can try to warn people, we can try to say, like, hey, don't engage with this. But our philosophy is more, let's shut down those pieces of infrastructure before real victims get harmed. Because, like, yes, they're going to be heartbroken, but at least their bank accounts will be whole. And that's kind of
Right.
the crux of the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. For people that maybe, I mean, I think everybody's gotten one of those texts at some point. It's like I get all different forms of them all the time. A few months ago it was like the toll fraud scams were a big
Yep.
thing, or
Yep.
that's a separate one. I think that's just that'll cost you like $50 or whatever it is. But the ones that you're describing are, like you said, a long-term play that like involves being invested in this trust relationship for weeks or months at a time. And it's a variation on real world scams that have been going on for literally decades or hundreds of years.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's tons of Hallmark movies about this. Like you can just go watch those.
Totally.
There
Yeah.
there's lots of them. And there's a reason they work, because most people want to feel like other people have their best interests at heart. They want to, engage with other people on, on a human level and
Yeah.
have real conversations.
Yeah.
And that involves trust. And if you are trusting the person inside your phone that you don't know, bad shit happens.
Right.
And there's
Right.
not a lot of, there's a bunch of different approaches to, like, the security awareness training approach to this is, like, I think we both know, does not really work. I know you did some work on that in the past, but I mean, yes, people need to be aware that these scams are there, but like training them out of falling for them is not a thing that works. It just doesn't. Like we have 20 years of anti-phishing training that proves that that really doesn't work on a large scale.
Totally, totally. And yeah, I don't want to hate so much on training. Like I think that awareness is a great thing and that security, right, it's like the Swiss cheese model. There's multiple layers of defense.
Yeah.
However, I don't think training is like the one firewall, right? It's there are going to be people who are not aware. There are going to be people who respond to the text because they're like, "Oh, I want to make sure Mary finds her golf partner."
Right.
Or whatever, right? It's like a very
Yeah.
human thing to be like, "Oh, wrong number, no, sorry." And
Hmm.
then the person follows up and is like, "Oh, well, what's your name?"
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, like, oh, we're chatting. What's your name? What are you up to?" It's like it
Yep.
mimics real world conversations where like you run into someone and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were my friend, but you just look like her." And you're like, "Oh, well, what's your name?" Like, let's maybe we can
Uh-huh.
be friends too. But
Yep.
it is now online. There's all these different tactics, but yeah, it's devastating because you hear these stories, you see the aggregate reports from like FBI, FTC, etc., but then you also hear these stories of people, and it's like I see these news stories all the time because that's where my sphere is. People, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, scammed out of $500,000, and you're like, that's
I know.
that's someone's life savings. That
They probably mortgaged their house twice to get, yeah. Yeah. And you
Yeah,
see them like pop up on like the local news here where I live, and like every couple months, because somebody will write into the investigative reporter at the Boston news station and is like, this happened to me. And you're just like, oh my God, it's so devastating. Like that ruined someone's life,
right,
literally ruined their life.
right. And it's like these are the people who are executing these sorts of like scams are really, they have playbooks, right? So like I want to take a
Oh
quick
yeah.
step back. Like a lot of these folks, unfortunately, who are like on the other side of the phone, are human trafficking victims, right? So they're
Yes.
part of these like compounds, a lot of which are in Southeast Asia right now. I mean, if you just Google like Southeast Asia scam compound, you'll find so many reports. And unfortunately, these people are being told like, "Hey, you have to do this, otherwise bad things will happen to you." And they're given playbooks, like they are
Hmm.
given phone farms and playbooks. It is an operational, like transnational criminal effort, and it is paying out. Like that is why it is so successful, and that's also why I really want to lean on the psychological manipulation part, because I'm like, I don't blame any of these victims. It's like very natural to respond to someone when they engage with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the scope of the problem that you just kind of like touched on there. I don't think people understand that. I think they figure these are kind of like loan scammers down in the Bahamas or something like that, or the old Nigerian prince,
Yep. Yep.
kind of infrastructure, which was semi-organized. But what you just said is true. Like most of those people are human trafficking victims. Their passports are taken away whenever they
Yep.
get to whatever country they're in. Their families are threatened or held hostage, as while they're stuck doing this job in this, scam call center somewhere in Southeast Asia for essentially like there's no end to it, until they can escape, or if they pay back some insane debt that they owe for being, moved across borders illegally. And yeah, they have playbooks just like a normal call center would. Like,
Yep.
you call your bank or the Target call center or whatever. They have a
Yeah.
Yeah, there it's professionalized and horrifying and gross. Yeah.
Right. And it's like we see instances of that in our data. Like we'll, mention as we're engaging with scammers, like, oh yeah, really into classic rock. And then a couple days or weeks later, they're like, hey, I remember you said you like classic rock. Here's a Pandora link to classic rock. And it's like the level of personalization doesn't make you
Mm,
think transnational cybercrime organization. It makes you think,
no.
oh, that's a person who like they listen to me, right? It's so convincing. I'm like honestly shocked, and also why I now find myself in this space because it's a really big problem. It's a big problem that I is only growing, and that's why we kind of came together to be like, hey, let's take this system that has shown to be able to run, engage with attackers, get this like really interesting infrastructure data, and then go find partners who like want to work together to shut it down with the end goal of like trying to prevent, again, people who have fallen for the manipulation
Yeah.
to experience even more harm, right? Like I don't want to downplay the emotional harm, but I'm like, man, if we can save some people from paying out money,
Yeah.
that's a win. Like,
No doubt. Yeah, because that's obviously the lifeblood of these, transnational organized crime groups. Like they don't get into these businesses if they're not profitable, and profitable on a huge scale, which these obviously are,
right.
because they're spreading. I mean, I don't know how much of what you guys are doing is sort of focused on the U.S. or North America, and how much of it is like all over the
Yeah,
world.
I will say we are very much focused in the US because that's where we're
Okay.
based. That's the ecosystem we're familiar with. This is happening all across the world. Like we're
Yeah.
seeing instances of this in like the UK has a lot of really good reporting. And actually the UK and Australia both have passed legislation about this. So let me take a quick step back. These scams are often classified as authorized push pay fraud. And so this is because, like me as a victim, I am being led to believe this person is real, they're trusted. So I go to my bank account, I transfer, let's say, $10,000, but I'm willingly transfer that, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've seen, like, I know my bank tried to send money to my mom a couple months ago, and they had all these warnings because I've never sent her money like from a
Totally.
bank account. And they were like,
Yep.
"Are you sure you know this person?" I was like, "No, I'm really certain I know." But they had
Yeah.
all these warnings, which are great. And also, the playbooks account for that. And they're like, no, 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 just click through that. Don't worry, like send the money. And
Yep.
so these scams, because people are willingly sending it, they're not being deceived. I mean, they're being deceived based on the trust, but it's not like the classic, I got you to click on a DocuSign and got your bank account
Yeah.
details that way. It's being classified as APP fraud. And now the UK and Australia have legislation protecting victims of this APP fraud. So much like in how in the US, how we have credit card fraud protections, it's like your bank has to reimburse up
Yep.
to a certain amount. They also are passing legislation because it's such a big problem. And they're like, listen, like the banks have to pay back in some way as long as there's like proof of document, et cetera, and there's all these caveats. But it is, that's a long way to say this is absolutely a worldwide problem. And we're
Yeah.
seeing that play out in the way that people are trying to shore up their defenses, the way they're trying to educate consumers, but also how policy is being changed to address or attempt to address this really growing type of scam and fraud.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned sort of working with partners that want to help shut these things down. And you mentioned the IC3, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center,
Yeah.
that does a ton of good work on this stuff. But I mean, the FBI has its hands full with, terrorism, sort of traditional cybercrime, all that kind of stuff that they're trying to get a handle on. So I don't know how far down the list this kind of stuff falls for them, but I'm sure it's
Yeah.
not above the things I just mentioned.
I can't say what it is for prioritization, but in the most recent like cybercrime annual report that I dropped like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I as a data nerd, I'm like, please go look up like IC3 like annual 2026 or 2025 cybercrime report. They actually have a call out to this operation within the FBI called Operation Level Up, where this is a new tactic that they are taking where they're getting data from various people, various partners, and they're finding victims in real time and trying to prevent those losses. So they will like actually try and contact the victim, get to them in person and be like, hey, we're seeing a lot of like weird stuff.
Yeah,
Let's like take a pause, and they have a call out in this report. I forget the exact numbers, but it's like X people contacted. I think it's something like 500 million prevented in losses or something. And so
it's
like
great.
maybe not number one concern. I'm not in these agencies, so I can't say, but like
Yeah,
we're
but
even seeing it in the government agencies where they're like, yeah, so we have this thing that we're doing, and it's like kind of working. which is awesome to see from a government perspective, an agency perspective.
Yeah, it is. Because they don't, I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world to get your arms around, I would think, from a law enforcement perspective, because it's not something that you can totally monitor that easily. It's all these ad hoc interactions between victims all over the country and fraudsters in, Borneo or, Malaysia or wherever.
Right. And again, because like we have data on this, one of the things that makes this so tricky also is that like a lot of these conversations move between platforms. So, like, let's say that you start with an SMS, and then at some point, and we see this the majority of the time, the attackers are like, hey, actually, let's move to WhatsApp. Here's my WhatsApp number.
Hmm.
And so then all of a sudden you're moving into
Yeah.
a channel that's end to end encrypted. You're moving the conversation. So now it's like fragmented across these different platforms. And sometimes they even move
Yeah.
to like another one. And this is very intentional because it's in their playbooks. Um, but yeah, it's like it's such a fragmented problem because then all of a sudden you see at the end payment platform, financial institution, whatever. It's like, oh, this person is now sending money to, it's like they don't have the context, right? And the
Yeah.
context is spread out across the internet, across all these different platforms, and it is really a tough problem to address. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
So how does the platform and the technology actually work without giving away your, any sort of secret sauce here? But
Yeah.
what's the general flow of the way things work?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you can kind of think of us as like a large sensor platform. So we set up sensors across a ton of different places where messages will come in. Wait for these like seemingly innocuous messages to show up, and then our system, right, our the system that we develop will engage with these messages. In an attempt to figure out like is this a scam or not, and this is where like the security and AI research skills that our team has really comes in handy, is to like try and train um, different parts of the system to be like, hey, this is like high likelihood scam, like actually no, this is just a legit wrong number.
Hmm.
um, and then for those things that are verified scammy intent, which you can usually tell within like the first 10 messages, we just continue to engage. And like I said, the system can engage naturally. It has all these like safety guardrails because we're very concerned about, AI
Yeah.
and security. So, and a little bit, like my background cybersecurity, my two colleagues, their background is in AI research. And so I'm very fortunate to continue to work with smart, awesome people. And kind of combining those forces has been really fruitful in this endeavor, because, we have both of those guardrails in place. And then we just continue the conversation, right, until the point where they're like, hey, here's the account, here is the payment platform, here's
Hmm.
whatever the final ask is. And that final ask can look different, but like I said, the philosophy is like by engaging with them naturally, you're able to like see the patterns, the playbooks, whatever, but then you can also see where they're trying to send money. And that's where that really
Yeah.
interesting information comes in.
Do you have a sense of whether these groups are using AI on their end? I mean, we know that most of it is human based, sort of out of necessity, but is there a way to know whether they're using AI to sort of optimize some of this for themselves?
Amazing question, Dennis. I'm so glad you asked because we have looked at that. Like, it's so fun being trying to tackle this problem, but also having a very like research oriented mindset, because we saw
Yeah.
all this data coming in and we're like, how much of this is AI generated?
Right.
And at least what we're seeing right now is like, so a lot of the scammers, like 20-ish% of the time, will send some sort of multimedia, like a picture, a video, a voice memo. Um, this is super interesting because sometimes the pictures will have the details of where they want you to send money itself. And so like being able to like ingest it and analyze, yeah, it's like they're getting
Oh,
through text-based parsing and putting it in the image. Right, exactly.
interesting. Okay.
You're like, oh, that's, yeah, you're smart, you're good at what you do.
Yep.
But to answer your original question, that the a lot of the AI voice clips seem like they're, or sorry, a lot of the voice clips seem like they're AI generated.
Hmm.
Um, And there's evidence of that. We can run analysis and be like, yeah, this is like something that was computer generated. But the images and the videos and stuff, it just appears like they're stolen. Like they're not deep
Yeah.
fakes. And so we're seeing instances of these attackers using AI, but it's not all AI generated. And I mean, we know that because the compounds still exist.
Yeah.
So it's like they're,
Yes.
they're using it, but they're not replacing the humans entirely, at least not yet. And, I can't say who knows what the next few years hold in this world of AI and computation, but maybe it shifts that way. And that's where, we're like, hey, we need to be prepared for anything, whether it's human generated, AI generated, but we're just not seeing that at wide scale yet. And I will say, I know there's a lot of like reports around um, AI usage in like targeted attacks. And I think that's
Yeah.
different here because this is a little bit more like send as many messages as possible, try to reach as many people as possible. And then if you get like a 0.01 success rate, that's still your payday. And so
It's
the,
all
the
worth it. Yeah.
right, the economics are also a little different than like a targeted, like, oh, how do I get Ariana to click on a malicious thing or like trick her specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just from the outside, my sense is that they would almost need humans for like just about every step of these scams, just because they need some sort of naturalistic back and forth to keep a human victim engaged. People are so sort of used to dealing with chatbots now over the last 3 years. Like even people that aren't in the tech world like we are, I think can kind of detect like, this is
Really
a robot. Like,
weird. Yeah.
yeah, there's something off here. Like the syntax is goofy, or the responses are coming too fast or too slow or whatever it is.
Right. 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 Yeah. I think that's very true right now. But
Right now, like,
yeah.
but yeah, like a month from now, who knows?
Right, right. And I'm like, and it's really interesting because I'm like, the economics are very much in the favor of using humans, again, because they're trafficked, they're victims
Yep.
themselves. And I'm like, okay, so at what point, and not, I don't mean to be crude about it in any way, but I'm like, these cybercrime organizations are thinking about their return and their profit. And so I'm like, at what point does that flip? And you're no longer trafficking people because you just have really good AI systems that are prolifically available and ubiquitous, and that is what they're using. Like I think that's this current situation we're in is terrifying and scary, and that one is also terrifying and scary for completely different reasons.
It
Um,
absolutely is. Yeah.
yeah,
And I don't think that's too far off. I I honestly don't. I mean, just given the pace of innovation and change that's happening, I mean, just in the last like 3 months, look at how, or even less. Like we were talking before we started recording about Claude Mythos, like God help us. That seems like it was 6 months ago. It was like 2.5 weeks ago when that happened, or 3 weeks ago. That
I know.
that
My
if
tolerance
that.
for ingesting the pace at which security is changing has needed to increase because I'm like, oh, now we're dealing with this week.
Yeah.
Great.
Tremendous. Great. Yeah. I
Tremendous.
mean,
Lovely.
yeah. Even people like you who are crazy smart and put all of your energy into this, like there's no possible way to keep up with the rate of change of what's going on in this world.
Yeah.
In by which I mean just AI in cybersecurity. Forget about AI usage in, the real world, the outside
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
It's I don't know
I
what the
like
real
I
world
like
is.
how you maybe this is intentional or not, but outside world is the real world. And then
Yes.
we're in our little security bubble of like, what is happening here? Like it's just feels it's sometimes it's very surreal. It is surreal, like the things that I see and read. And it does bring me back to this question of like, okay, so when do these cyber criminal organizations be like, yeah, we're gonna start testing some of these AI models and LLMs
Mhm.
in service of executing these pig butchering conversational scams.
Yeah.
That's also where I'm like, hey, we need to be ahead of this. Which is
That's
what we are working on. That's where we're at. We're like on the other side of like, hey, let's like keep up with all this stuff as it's changing as much as we can, scale, try to impact the problem as much as possible. But it is an interesting existential question of like, when do they start using similar things?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today about this. And I mean, my bet, I don't know this for sure, but just anecdotal evidence I hear from security researchers, I'm pretty sure that like the top level attack groups from China and Russia and possibly elsewhere are using frontier AI models in their own work. They have the resources,
Right,
they certainly have the motivation, and
right.
they have the money and the people to do it. So
Yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't be.
Exactly. Right. Because if the question is the question is not why would you use it? It's like why wouldn't you use it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is really terrifying because every day you sort of wake up and you're like, holy shit, another thing happens. Like I didn't even like process what happened yesterday in this world. And like security has always moved fast, but I just feel like it's like compounded over the last like year or so.
I definitely feel that way. 100%. It just the again the rate of change has increased to a level where I'm like I am I think we're all doing our best to keep up, and it feels like it's a little bit of like running behind the news. I'm like, okay, now there's another
Yeah.
thing. Like I actually did think as we were discussing, like, oh yeah, Mythos was only like 2 weeks ago. Oh god. Oh my
Yes. And like five other big things have happened since then that are just it's so wild. Yeah, I don't know. But that's why I mean, I'm happy that there are people like you guys focused on a specific problem that can actually bring some benefit to people instead of just, you know, making somebody else a giant pile of, gold coins in a
yeah.
bunker
Yeah.
somewhere in like the Bay
In a
Area.
bunker somewhere. Yeah, yeah. No, it is we are researchers by trade and are very much motivated by trying to tackle this problem that, like I said, it's only growing. Like you look at all the reports across multiple countries, and like the graph is up and to the right in terms of number of losses and number of victims, and it's like, okay, so how can we address it? Let's try to go after the fraudsters themselves and shut down that infrastructure as quickly as possible, so that like my friend's family member isn't paying out. And
Yeah.
that's at the end of the day what we're doing.
And I feel like you guys have the advantage. I mean, this is a bad way of putting it, but the advantage of everybody kind of understands the problem you're trying to solve. It's not some insanely complex technical thing where you're like, well, we have this really cool exploit mitigation that like solves, it prevents buffer overflows in the no,
So
like
actually we take the CVSS score and then we put it through this model and then yeah.
right. No,
Yeah.
you're like, have you gotten one of these texts? Yes, we try and fix that. Like that,
Yeah, I know. When
you
I
know.
when I told my family members, and friends, they were like, "Oh, so you're?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm actually leaving my current job, and I'm going to start, this new venture with two amazing colleagues of mine." And they were like, "Oh, well, what's the problem? Like, you don't have to dumb it down for me." And I'm like, "No, no need. Have you gotten one of these texts?"
No, it's pretty
Yeah.
simple. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like some people are like, "Oh my god, yeah, sometimes I respond to those." And sometimes they're like, "Yeah, I never respond to that." And I'm like, "Yeah, a lot more people respond to those than you probably would think."
I,
And they're a lot more devastating than you would think. And it has made my family life a lot easier because previous parts of my research were like I was like, "Oh, well, like imagine this analogy." I'm like, "No, no. That text, that's
right.
money.
Let me
That's what
just
that
see your phone. I'll show you what the problem is right now. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy because like even for someone like you or me who's hyper aware of this problem, you get one of those texts and sometimes I just look at it and it's like the area code that my cell phone number is, which, they're
Yeah.
very careful about that. And you
Right.
kind of look at it and you're like, this could be the guy that I played golf with last summer that like I can't really remember his name, but it might be him. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I barely respond to texts from people I know. So, like the scam ones are not going to get me to respond, but it's very clear how or why this works.
Yeah,
It's not a
absolutely.
mystery.
Dennis, now I know if you're not responding to my texts, I'll be like, Dennis, stop responding to the scams,
To the
please.
right. Stop talking
You
to the
know
guy in
me.
Malaysia.
You know me. Respond to me. Yeah, no, it's again, it's um manipulation of being a human. I have no other good way to describe it. It's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
they and because texts are cheap, phone calls are cheap, they just
Yeah.
keep trying until something sticks. And like that's the unfortunate world, I think there's a lot of benefits of being so interconnected. I think this is one of the potential downsides, right? Is it is now just cheap to message anyone on any platform at all times of the day until something sticks. And you're like, oh, and it's like I was thinking about this other day, like my mechanic who's local to my neighborhood sent me a text, and I was like, I mean, my car is in the shop today. I think this is real. But
Yeah.
I did my due diligence and I checked and it was like, oh yeah, they changed the number on their webpage to match this. But I was like, I don't know, their phone office could be down and they're just like texting me because they're a mom and pop shop and they're like,
Yep.
oh, here's your update about your car. And I'm like, this could be pig butchering. I don't know. No, it was actually my car having issues. But like that's what I mean. It's like
Right.
it makes you think. You're like, is this I don't know. I do
I
not
know.
know.
And I feel like that's just an occupational hazard of being in this world of like you're just kind of skeptical and distrustful of almost everything all the time, which is a terrible mindset to have, especially for like somebody
Yep.
like me who's like a generally optimistic person, and you just kind of look at everything like you look at it like side-eyed, like, that's bullshit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a scam. I know that's yeah,
Right. I
it's
know
not.
that one's definitely so I know I got a letter in the mail and I was like, is this just another scam? And
Yeah.
it was. It totally was. I was like, damn, now they're physical mail too. Great.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All all messaging platforms is very literal, right? It's like you're getting on text, you get on social media, you'll get it on any platform you're using, getting in the mail. I'm like, yeah, this is a it
I
is an
know.
interesting time we live in. Let me just say that.
Interesting is one word for it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like a lot of this just kind of goes back to human psychology and behavior too. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned you were sort of like human centric security is where you came from. So
Yeah.
you must have been kind of like steeped in that as well, kind of looking at it from the psychological standpoint.
Well, and 100%, and that's what a lot of my research over the last 10 years has been around. It's like, oh, when we have people do phishing training, is that effective? And like, what are the hypotheses for it perhaps not being so effective? Like, when you
Yeah.
ask people to change their passwords, like, what happens organizationally and also like to the individual people? These are just some examples of some of the work I've done, and it really, this is also why, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, I just like can't blame victims. I am
No.
like I
No.
hear these stories like for example, I don't know if anyone here has heard of Becky Holmes. She has this book, I'm gonna butcher the title. It's like Keanu Reeves is actually not in love with you. And this is an example of someone putting their story into writing. And you read it and you're like, yep, this is convincing. Next page.
Oh,
Yep.
that's tough.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So it really provides, I think, a different perspective. Because like I said, I mean so many people in this field of work who are like, who responds to that? And I'm like, a lot. $20
Yeah.
billion of reported losses. A number of people, right?
Yeah. But I feel like some of that maybe resistance to what you're describing is just like the insular mindset of the tech world of like I'm too smart for that,
Yeah.
because I do what I do. I would never shut up, man. Yeah, you would. Like if they found just the right lure, I promise you would. I know CISOs that have clicked on phishing links and really bad things have happened, and these are highly trained, really smart people. Like,
Totally.
you
Totally.
know,
And this is something I've thought about a lot. I so many of our security protections rely on the user to like be
Yeah.
making judgment calls and being aware and being up to date. And at some point, I forget when this switch happened, but in my career, I was like, this is not sustainable. And so I very much am on the side of like, what can the systems do for us? Like, how can we protect people? And like, there's so many examples of this, but like, how do we protect people without them knowing? Like, how do we just get to that point where they
Yeah.
don't need to make a decision? Like, one of my favorite examples of this, it's not scam related, but it's more like browser security, is, for years, a lot of the major browsers were trying to like get every website over HTTPS and get all connections
Yeah.
over HTTPS. And at some
Yeah.
point, Chrome was like, hey, there's all these pages with mixed links. Like, they have like third party web pages that are HTTP.
Yep.
We're just going to upgrade them to HTTPS. Like, we're just going to do that for you. And so you no longer have a user who's sitting at their webpage being like, oh, that like weird symbol. I don't know. Like, is it not? It's like
Yeah.
the system just decided, like, hey, we're going to just implement that protection. And I think that's just like a lot of where my mind goes is like, how do we build these systems, create these data sources, like pull together the ecosystem to protect people without them knowing? Because, like, man, it's tough to be a person on the internet right now. It is so hard.
You're so right. This is why you go on like 3 week long hiking trips and you're just like, I'm out. Like, no, thank you. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
so you need to disconnect a little bit to like see the problem fresh.
No doubt. But you're so right about kind of that invisible layer of protection that needs to exist, because we cannot rely, and this is not victim blaming, but we can't just rely on humans to defend themselves from persistent, well trained, in a lot of cases,
Yep.
well resourced attackers. This is their job. They are trained to make money from you in one way or another. You're not really trained to defend against that, and you shouldn't have to be. It's like
Exactly.
there's a reason that the government decided to put like fluoride in the water 50 years ago,
Yes.
like to
Yes,
help people.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a great non-security. Oh my God, Dennis, I might have to start referring to that as a non-security example.
It's all
That is a
yours.
yeah, exactly. It's like this is just good for you. Or like these okay, I can now I'm thinking about other I'm thinking of economic examples, never mind. But
Go for it. Yeah.
like how it's like, you like a lot of like savings accounts or like 401ks, they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna auto enroll you. It's like, yeah, it's
Yes.
just good for you. It's just good for you. Like, we're just doing it.
Yep.
It's like, how can we just opt people into protections? And like the security and internet is different and so much more
Yeah,
decentralized
but
than other systems. But no, exactly this.
we have thousands of years of human behavior to sort of look at and understand that humans are fallible and we're all going to make mistakes, and we can't just train them out of that, in the same way that we can't, you know bug fix our way out into security. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
Mythos is finding giant piles of bugs. Great. We go and patch all of those. There's another pile behind that. Like, that we
right.
can't just keep doing that ad infinitum. That's
Just piles and piles on piles. Yeah.
so many
I
bugs.
know. I know.
Yeah.
And I'm just going back to a comment you said prior. It's just so interesting how cybercrime, continues to evolve but also mimics a lot of human history. I mean, like this, and again, I might butcher the details of this, but there's like the Spanish prisoner scam where people would get letters from someone who's like, hey, I'm stuck in Spain, I'm in prison, but like if you give me some money, I'm going to be able to get out. I can like get out of the situation and then I'll get
Yeah.
access to my money and then like I can pay you back with interest. And it's
Yep.
like that same thing is happening just on my phone.
Yes.
It's and this
Yeah.
is like 100-year difference that we're seeing. And so it's like human psychology is the same, how people react has remained the same, just the methods at which they are being manipulated, exfiltrated, etc. Like that's just changing. And so
Yeah.
how can we protect people knowing that we're valuable, as you said?
Yeah. the methods change, people don't. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of what it
Yeah.
comes down to, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ariana, thank you so much for coming on. This is a delight. It was so nice to see you. I'm really happy
Dennis,
for you. I'm really
it's
excited to see how this goes.
thank you. It's my pleasure. It's always fantastic to chat, and thank you for having me and letting me talk about pig butchering scams and conversational scams. You know, as much as I'm like, yes, we need system level defenses. Even if one person hears this and tells the people in their life like, hey, don't respond to those texts, I
Yeah.
also consider that a win. So like, tell people in your life, let them know like those texts are not as innocent as they seem, and hopefully in a couple years this will be less of a problem.